Episode 68, Crime Scene Time Machine.
Good morning, everybody. This is Crime Scene Time Machine. I'm your host, Scott Roeder. Today is November the 18th, 2024, and I love you, planet Earth. And I love you, Australia. And I love you, Japan. It's been an amazing almost 3 weeks now as I got onto that airplane from Cleveland, Ohio with my colleagues from Evidence Room and traveled to one of the most beautiful cities I've ever visited in my entire 54 years of being alive, Sydney, Australia. In this particular case, Bondi Beach. Wow. Quite a crop they're growing down there, hanging out at the Bondi Beach. God bless you. You know, when they say in that song by Men at Work, what's the name of that song again? This is how you know this is a non-scripted show. What's the song? Okay, it's a Men at Work. We come from the land down under, where women glow and men plunder. I always thought it was where women glow and men blunder. I think that might be part of it. Also, being so close on the bottom half of the world, I've proven now for a fact that we live on a globe, because on the way back, just to skip to the end of the story, my airplane flew over the North Pole. Now, does that mean that you can circumvent the globe vertically? I don't know. But I did fly over the North Pole, and that's something I'd never done before, and the flight map was amazing. One of the hardest flights I've had to take. I sat by the emergency exit, and as you're flying, I don't know if you guys know this, as you're flying over the North Pole in late November, sitting at the emergency exit, basically the wing of the airplane, it's freezing. It was so cold. I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. I'll sit by the emergency exit. I'll get extra leg room so I can stretch out, because I'm flying in basic economy. And so I had an aisle seat. I could stretch out my legs. And I swear to gosh, it was, I don't know, 38 degrees where I was sitting on the airplane. Everybody else is in shorts and flip-flops, and I'm sitting there wrapped up like, I'm literally the only one in the plane feeling how cold it is, because I'm sitting by the draft as we fly over the North Pole. Pretty amazing stuff. But anyway, I can't really get into too much about the goings-on in Australia because we were there on an official capacity. And I think it was very, very successful. And we are excited about our new partnerships that we have with certain members of the community, members of the media, and members of the government in certain areas of Australia. So a lot of respect, a lot of love. Some of the most kind, open, mentally malleable people, and some of the funnest, friendliest people I've ever met. First place goes to the Greater Sydney, Australia area. New South Wales, you know what you're doing down there. And, some people call it a little bit of a nanny state and so on and so forth, but shit, I think it works. It's working. Whatever you got going on down there in Sydney, it's working. Don't change anything. You're doing just fine. One of the other big things before I get into Japan, while I was in Japan, the New Zealand, as a matter of fact, big shout out to Bella and Clark, my new friends from New Zealand. Business shoes. That means it's business time. Had a great time with Bella and Clark. Love you guys. And when I come to New Zealand, I am definitely going to give you guys a ring up, hit you up on the gram, whatnot, because I really need to experience the Haka attitude of the country of New Zealand. What class, what grace, what dignity, what power, what beauty shown by your Haka government representatives in protest of a questionable piece of legislation.
Is a complete breach of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. I see that mātauranga Māori has been axed and replaced with cultural safety. Now that is a huge concern, knowing that they are going to replace mātauranga Māori. Well, what is the plan? What is the strategy? What does that mean by taking out mātauranga Māori? Is that Tuhunga Suppression Act 2.0? Also outcomes, knowing that us in Waikato, we have been proposing strategies for decades, even if we look at Te Puia Herangi, Princess Te Puia Herangi in 1930, where she wanted the aspiration and goals to establish actually a Māori hospital at Mahinarangi in Turangawaewa. I asked the Minister, why has he not had consultation with these original claimants like Ture and the many different mātanga and experts in this field, knowing that they've given decades upon decades of work to the establishment of a Māori health authority. It's ironic that members across keep shouting Māori need to retain their self-responsibility. Well, that's exactly what we want to do. That is actually tino ranga tiratanga, is self-responsibility. We want to have self-responsibility over our health, over our data sovereignty, over our outcomes, but we can't because the Crown is in charge of them.
The House is suspended until the ringing of the bells. The gallery is to be cleared.
And God bless you guys. The Haka spirit should be talked about just like the samurai spirit of Japan. And the people of Japan, particularly...
fantastic collaborators in association with Grumpy Dog Pictures, Mr. Tomo Shindo, and the young and extremely talented director Mas Kondo, who I had the pleasure of finally meeting in person for a lovely breakfast. Again, domo arigato. And, all of the other wonderful people that I met along the way in the beautiful country of Japan. Tokyo.
The people that I came in contact with were samurai spirit. I want to give a shout out to Sikh Tattoos and my brilliant tattoo artist Shinto for my original 1953 tattoo interpretation of the samurai spirit as it is embodied by the anti-hero of Godzilla, which is really one of the most spectacular stories in cinematic history. Because if you look at the timing of the nuclear bomb, 2 nuclear bombs, allegedly, that landed and ended the war, rising up from the ashes came this amazing Japanese cinema. Revolutionary for its time, of course, featured around a couple of main characters. Number one, of course, being Godzilla, and Japan suffering the wrath of Godzilla, and then ultimately harnessing Godzilla through the years as a feature of comedy, action, adventure, and most importantly, I think as of recent, highlighting the story of the samurai spirit. And what Shinto had told me was, the Japanese people aren't big people, but they have big hearts, and that's the samurai spirit. So I want to think I got a little bit of that Haka spirit. I got a little bit of that samurai spirit. I got a little bit of that cowboy spirit. I got a little bit of that Ohio spirit, that comeback kid spirit, that underdog spirit, fighting for the little guy spirit. That's how I feel coming back to the United States after this beautiful trip. Why was I in Japan? Well, I was visiting with the executive producers, director of a television show called Incredible, where my episode aired about the Las Vegas alien case, and it came to rousing reviews and recent polls. 85% of people that saw that show and my interview with regard to explaining the reality of the extraterrestrials in the backyard of the Gomez family on May 1st, 2023, agree with me that it is real. They can see it, and holy crap. And they were excited and scared all at the same time. It's also interesting that in Japan, because I was talking to people there, sometimes through an interpreter, sometimes through my interpretation device or Google Translate or whatever, about, do you believe in demons? Like, could these extraterrestrials be demons? And this one gentleman said to me, we don't have a word for demons in Japanese. They don't believe in that concept at all. Hell, the devil, demons. That's not even in their lexicon. So when I asked them that question, what do you think these are? And they said, well, definitely they're not humans. But he couldn't understand. He's like, well, what do you mean by demon? What's a demon? And I basically said, you remember the movie The Ring? Like that, one of the best Japanese horror movies of all time, The Ring. I think originally that was a Japanese movie, and then it came out in America after, with American actors or actresses. I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember The Ring being a Japanese story originally. So I think maybe some of their Western influences know what demons are, but so that was a success, and of course, Australia. Every time they must be putting something in the water, because every time I go, it gets harder and harder to leave. You know what I mean? And if you can pick the movie that I just homaged with that little quote, I'll do it again for you. Hey, Australia, I don't know. I think you're putting something in the water. Every time I come here, it just gets harder to leave. You know what I mean? So if anybody gets that movie reference, I will send you, at my expense, a brand new flat brim evidence room baseball hat, and I will sign it if you want me to, or if you want it still in the plastic, I'll send it to you still in the plastic. And that offers outstanding right now to anybody out there. So what is this show about today? I think the show is, I wanted to call it The Uncomfortable Destruction of My Atomic Structure, or possibly The Uncomfortable Jubilation of My Atomic Destruction. I think that's it. the uncomfortable jubilation of my atomic destruction. Similar to the uncomfortable jubilation that I have of the farcical but entertaining sideshow that was the November 13th UFO hearings. I think what you got to see in some outtakes of what happened. I think what was more interesting, what was happening in the gallery and in the hallways before and after the hearings than what actually was said under oath. For example, an amazing outburst by Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy, who called my effort on the forensic evaluation of the Vegas case unhelpful on his weaponized podcast. Isn't it funny that tools don't know their tools because they think they're a smart tool when really they're a dumb tool? Like, I was talking to Avi Loeb, and one of the biggest things that he was surprised about was that it wasn't his fancy telescopes that help him drum up some amazing artifacts from outer space, but it was a dumb tool, like a magnet, that he was able to use to scrape across the ocean floor outside of Madagascar to pull up these metal pieces of a meteor that landed that might be part of a UFO.
So, I think we should all use that lesson from Avi Loeb. And, sometimes let's just try to keep it simple. And, the UFO reality is a real thing. I guess sometimes I'm unclear as to why I care, other than, I think just this general investigative desire to, figure out something that I feel like we should know. Like I feel the regular people, everyday people, need to know that we are hopeful. We have amazing capacity. Why else would this presence be here other than we're interesting? And if I know anything, I know that the human spirit is full of adventure and they have courage. Remind myself, be courageous. Just do what you believe is the right thing to do. And, I don't want to step on anybody else. A lot of people have their styles, they have their motivations, and so on and so forth. But I guess we really don't need to be concerned with that. We just need to be concerned with, I think, educating ourselves as to what is possible. And we've now reached the end of the show. See you next time.